All right. The video is on. So I'm gonna start asking you some questions.
I'm on camera?
Yeah, right now. What what is your name?
Rosemary Ratchford.
What was your name when you were born?
Rosina Maria Ragusa. Ragusa.
Okay. Where were you born?
In Manhattan.
Okay. What's your birthday?
8/12/23.
So August 12th, 1923. Um, just briefly, who were your parents?
Domenica Ragusa and Paul Ragusa.
Were they born in this country?
My mother was born in Manhattan. My father was born in Sicily.
Okay, so you were the daughter of an immigrant. Okay. Um, when you were born,
When I was born, my father was already an American citizen.
okay, good.
He fought in World War II on our side.
World War One. World War One.
What did I say?
World War Two. Okay. Um, so your father left Italy, came here, became a citizen, and then fought for the United States in World War One. When you were you born in a hospital?
And my mother chose to deliver at home.
Were you aware at that time, were most babies born at home or were most babies born in hospitals?
I think that was a turning point where you couldn't say most of anything, but there were home deliveries and there were hospital deliveries.
Okay.
I don't know why my mother, who was a scientist, chose to deliver at home with a midwife.
Right. When you say your mother was a scientist, what do you mean?
She graduated Hunter College in 19, I have to find out the exact date, let's just say 1918. She was a biology major and always had a job at that time in laboratories.
All right, so that must have been very unusual to have a mother who graduated.
Remember, she's the first child of immigrants.
Right, so her parents were immigrants, so that must have been very unusual that she went to college.
Very unusual.
All right, so you were born in 1923. Did you live in an apartment? Did you live in a house?
An apartment in Manhattan.
Okay.
Probably the kind of apartments that were over stores.
Okay. What's your earliest memory? Do you have
Most children remember as far back as 5. I don't know. I have a memory of kindergarten.
what was that memory?
I remember the school. I remember the shape of the class. I remember taking trips with the class. I remember a long walk to school.
So you live in New York City in an apartment?
No, I know. No. When I went to school, we had already moved to Jackson Heights. My grandfather and father bought a house
in Jackson Heights. And so your grandparents had a house.
My grandfather had money. He was not affected by the Great Depression.
Well, we're gonna get to that. So how old were you when you moved out of the apartment?
2.
Okay. So really, most of your memories are living in.
I do not remember anything about Manhattan.
Okay. So what kind of a house did you grow up in Jackson
A
Heights?
two-family brick house.
Okay. And who lived in that house?
My grandparents and their two daughters, and on the lower apartment, and the upper apartment, my mother, father, and me.
So you were an only child?
Yes.
Okay. So you grew up in a two-family house
Yes.
where you and your parents are upstairs and your grandparents and aunts are downstairs. Okay.
I was let that.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I was the first grandchild. Not true. Louis was the first grandchild.
But you felt like a first grandchild.
I was their first granddaughter, living upstairs, and was adored by two families.
Okay. So when you moved to Jackson Heights, what was it like to live in Jackson Heights? What kind of a neighborhood was it?
It was WASPy, which means white American.
Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And you were,
At 2 years old, I'm not aware of what I am at all, but I can tell you from this perspective, I was born into an Italian clan that were considered Catholic, but not devout.
and how were Italians treated in your neighborhood?
I do not like the expression guineas, but we were treated as guineas.
So you felt that you were discriminated
I
against?
didn't feel anything. My parents felt that. I'm two.
No, all right. So you said earlier one of your first memories is kindergarten.
Oh, at that point, that had changed. When I'm in kindergarten, the Italian doesn't even enter it.
So enough Italians had moved in where it wasn't an issue?
It didn't either.
Okay.
I'm too young to understand racism. I don't think my parents at that point gave any thought to it.
She was going to say didn't give a crap, but she censored it for you, Joey.
Didn't give any thought to the discrimination anymore. And my mother at that point was very social. So she had made friends with neighbors who were always called Mrs. This, Mrs. That.
So you would, right. So you always called grown-ups Mr. or Mrs. Did your parents work? Both parents work after you were born?
No, just my father worked. He had a barber shop with his brother in Manhattan on Columbus Avenue.
And what was that like for you?
At that young age, it didn't matter one way or another. As I got older, there were holidays from school, and I would go to work with my father, and I would be his pride and joy in the barber shop. But if I can advance 20 years from this moment, I always have given thought to how did my father furnish that house, our apartment.
In
And
Manhattan?
I really believed that either his brother, who was a bachelor, so saved every dime he made, or my grandfather helped him out. It was our apartment, my mother and father and me, our apartment was fully furnished.
Okay, but you moved out of it when you were 2, and then you're in Jackson Heights with all of this furniture. And you think...
I never realized at that point,
right,
where did this all come from,
okay.
until 20 years later.
Did you grow up with electricity?
Yes and no. There was a very funny looking lamp in one of the halls that wasn't electric. Never understood it though.
Okay, but for the...
You turned it on, it was something that you turned on or turned off.
But do you have a memory of all of a sudden we have electricity?
I probably had it in Manhattan.
Okay. So okay.
That didn't faze me.
All right. Did you grow up with
What fazed me was an icebox as opposed
to a refrigerator? So you didn't have a refrigerator? So the food was in an icebox. And that must have meant that someone had to come and deliver ice every day?
Well, and my mother had a sign that she put in the window. And the way she turned the sign meant how much ice she needed that day.
Oh, so when the ice guy would go by.
It might be turned to she doesn't need ice today.
Okay, so you're born in 1920.
My grandmother probably needed ice every day. I don't know.
Right. Do you remember when they first got a refrigerator?
Oh, yes.
When was that?
When?
Yeah. Well, how old were you about?
Within memory, over 5. Because that I remember. But I don't remember it. I don't remember it in reality. But I remember having a refrigerator and my father afraid to open the door of the refrigerator.
Why?
You would lose your whole whatever. Like, I guess when you had the icebox,
Right.
you didn't keep that door open.
Right. It's like you'd lose the coldness or whatever. What kind of food did you eat growing up?
Vegetables, meat. We didn't have an abundance of meat, but I remember having meat more than once a week.
Was it Italian food always?
Both, everything. My grandmother lived her married life in Manhattan with a potpourri of people. So she had German cooking, she had Slavic cooking, she could cook anything.
Okay. So although she was Italian, because of
We had pasta. Sunday was pasta day. Thursday was pasta day. That's Italian. But she would make any kind of food she had a mind to make. Not only that, she knew how to economize with leftovers and make stuff out of nothing.
Right. Okay. When you were in school, were you a good student? Were you a good student?
Always. I have wrote report cards saying,
Okay, no. Did your parents tell you that it was important to do well, or you just did well?
No. That's a Jewish trick.
Okay. No, but you did.
The Jewish kids, I don't know how we were instilled, how it was instilled. Jewish families stressed education.
How did you know that?
I don't know.
But
My mother must have told me.
So you're in school as a student, no pressure on you, but you were aware, were there Jewish kids in your class?
No, it wasn't done through the classroom. You're going to